We are doing fractional linear equations type 2. So we're asked to solve for x. When we look at this, we see we have an equation on both sides and we have fractions. So usually when we approach these types of problems, we want to clear the fractions. That's the technique we would usually use. To clear the fractions or to get rid of the fractions, we multiply by the common denominator. So think of it as if you're adding or subtracting these fractions, what would the denominator have to be? Well, what's the least common multiple, the smallest number that both 4 and 10 go into? If you don't know, you can just multiply these two together. 40 would work. That's a little bit bigger than what I would like. There's another option. So I usually just go through multiples of the bigger one. So the bigger one's 10. And I would look at it as, does 10 work? Does 20 work? Does 30 work? And then 40, we hit our limit of where we would multiply these two. 20 does work. So I'm going to multiply everything by 20. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. So everything gets multiplied by 20. So 20 gets multiplied to this one. Every terms are separated by plus or minus signs. And we're talking about these that are separating the groupings. So there's 4 terms going on here. And so we'd multiply by 20 by each one. Let's go ahead and do this nice and slow so you can see it. So that would be 20 on the first one. A lot of times when you do these, you can kind of take some shortcuts, but as we get used to this, best to not if you're still struggling. If this is easy for you, then yes, not a problem. And then this, I would just multiply it out. 20 times 2x is 40x. 20 times 1 is 20. All right, and the whole point of this is to get rid of our fractions. So if the fractions are not gone, you've done something wrong. So 4 goes into 20, how many times? 5 times, changes to a 5. And that would have been the shortcut. 4 goes into 25 times. I could have just changed that to a 5. Make sure you have parentheses around the x minus 3. All of that is being affected. 10 goes into 20 twice. All right, so at this stage, I'll go ahead and just try to make my work a little bit simpler. That 5 is getting distributed through, and the 2 is getting distributed through. So this becomes 5x minus 15. This is a negative 2 to make my work a little bit easier. Negative 2 times 3x. Otherwise, I'd have to keep these parentheses, trying to get the parentheses away. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times, that was a 3x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Everything on the right stays the same. All right, combine like terms. That's a negative x, 5x and negative 6x, minus 21, the 15, negative 15 and negative 6, equals 40x plus 20. Now, I really recommend grouping your x's together first. It helps if you can keep them positive, a little bit less to think about or worry about. That way you know what side to solve on. A lot of times students do this randomly, and then you make your work longer unless you can kind of look ahead 1 or 2 steps. So point is, get the x's to one side first and try to keep it positive. So I'm going to add this x, add x. And I might as well do it all at once. And minus 20, at this level, you should be able to do things at more than one level, at more than one stage, if it doesn't like kind of muddle your work and everything seems pretty clear here. Adding straight down. Those are gone, and I get negative 41 equals, these combine and these are gone, 41x, divide by 41, divide by 41. Negative 1 equals x, and that's it. Okay. Least common multiple of denominators. We call it clearing fractions here. Sometimes the old CPM calls it fraction busters. Clearing fractions is a better way. You're getting rid of all the fractions. And that's exactly what we did here. Looks like all the steps are very similar. if not the same. Good. Check out the next one, see if it's any different. Exactly the same kind of problem. So clear the fractions, keep track of your work.